is the Paramatma, that which is hidden in us, that which we find it difficult to access. And the reason why we find it difficult to access is we are already that 100%. We are already that 100%, but we don't know it because of the veil created by Shakti, the web of thought, too much of activity of thought. So that's the veil, that's the web. So we don't know that we're already that. So here Krishna is saying, there is nothing whatsoever higher than me, O Dhananjaya. All this is strung on me as clusters of gems on a string. So through every object, through every galaxy, through every creature, living, animate or inanimate, the Paramatma is there. He's always there. He's always there. He is the transcendental. Every piece, a cockroach, a small stone, a blade of grass, the Paramatma is there. And the same Paramatma is in us. But the blade of grass does not have a tongue and a mouth and vocal cords to speak, so it's not able to speak. The stone does not have a biological sophistication to speak, but the Paramatma is there. Just as the same Paramatma in us, not inferior. This is not a more evolved Paramatma, that is not a less evolved Paramatma. The very same, the self-same Paramatma. God is present everywhere. And so I was saying that some people are my friends here, and they're very fortunate and lucky because this happens, because look at this. Now you can be so secure in your journey in Artha and Kama that even if there are small perturbations on that equilibrium position, you're rocked by some adversity, some loss, some grief, very soon you will just settle down and you'll become well again. And you'll declare life to be nothing but happiness. Then a time will come when this is your position. Later, another time will come when you lost your heaven and you're in hell. And then, when you're in hell, you got to come to God. You got to seek self-knowledge. You got to seek Devgn and Atmajnana, because they are the medicines for that malady. And in this position, what can happen is, you can find a temporary resting place by taking refuge in God because you are in distress. Because I said there are 4 boxes, and the distressed also go to God because they are in pain. They just want solace. They want God to pamper them, God to tell them, I'll take care of you, don't worry. They want to hear such words. So this is that position. This is that position. Now I'm not talking of that. I'm talking of this, where you're infinitely secure. You've gone back home. God is not, you're not seeking God for solace. You don't need God for money. You don't need God to bless you for money, or bless you for a house, or bless you to become the president of some country. Nothing of that sort. Then you're just going back home because it's probably time in your destiny that you go back home. And then this happens. And this happens. And then looking at the whole thing from here, so this calamity and this adversity was a blessing in disguise, because this is the starting point of that journey. Therefore the pain is very well deserved, because the pain is going to lead to something noble and something much more splendorous, provided we drink that pain. Provided we are humble enough to drink that pain and not make the mistake of putting the pain under the carpet, then good things are going to happen to us. Lovely things are going to happen to us. So we have already seen this, that you've got to be detached from sense objects, and you've got to renounce the egoistic way of life. Then you've got to contemplate on old age and disease and death and birth, and on the nature of suffering in life, dukkha, and on all the evils in life, because that is the only way you can develop the detachment, by seeing life as it is, that this life is actually a passing show. It's a temporary affair. So this will become more clear to us after 60, because by the time we are 60, we have already gone to the cremation ground several times. We lost our parents and lost a near and dear. So it's come home to us, at least partially, that our own death is just round the corner, and just few more years. maybe 20 years or 10 years or 30 years, just around the corner, the clock is ticking. And the more you contemplate on the evanescent nature of life, on birth and death, on old age and disease and suffering and the evils in life, the more equanimous we become and the more robust we become in our understanding, and we and illusion and Maya part company. So we saw this already, so I'm not going to, So we come again and again to the central truth of this yajna, that now this is the manas or the feeling nature. And then there is an I in life, an I, a sense of self or I. Then we say, I am an engineer, I am an Indian, and I am a scientist, or I am a teacher, or something like that we keep saying. And yeah, whether you're a scientist or a teacher, or whether you're an Indian, or whether you're a dancer, or whether you're somebody else, all these are temporary masks on the real I. You are the real I. And these are temporary clothes on the I. So the clothing may be there for 10 years, for 20 years, for 30 years. Then the clothing goes, then some other clothing comes on the I. And that I is ever the same from the time we were small children. It has never changed. And to get at that sense of I, which has never changed from the time we were small children, and that is the key to the spiritual life. To get the deeper sense of self, that there is something in us which is watching, which seems to be timeless, which has never ever changed through all the pleasures and the adversities of life. And got to get at that by steering clear of Maya, because we are that already, and we've got to know that, we've got to be that. And Ganesha in the Hindu religion is the sense of I amness. I amness. Now, instead of being rooted in I amness, you can be in a camouflaged form of the I. There is the naked I, which is the Ganesha energy, sense of being. The sense of being, a lovely sense of being, lovely sense of peace, feeling tremendously good. And then there is the sense of becoming. Some other activity in this part of the feeling nature of consciousness may take place, activities, various activities. But they belong to the realm of becoming. And this alone is the realm of being. So we have got to slowly shift from Shakti's realm of becoming to Shiva's realm of being. And in the Hindu religion, Ganesha is considered the eldest son of Shiva. So Shiva, the primordial, birthless, deathless awareness, he created this I amness, which is the central essence of the human self. And first, from Shakti, you got to arrive here at this station. This is a portal where we got to arrive. And once we arrive there, we get the inner contentment. We got it. But we got to give up the becoming. We have got to say goodbye to the becoming. And so the sages were very wise. They said, we know that you are so fascinated by Shakti and you are not going to say goodbye before 60, so take your time. But at least at 60, please say farewell to Shakti and come back home to Shiva. Very magnanimous teaching, very liberal-hearted. Not at all driving and bullying you and trying to convert you into a monk. No. Take your time. Have your fill. Please think about these things. And then, so once you're rooted here, now there is an invisible connection to the Paramatma, who's unmanifest. And because he is unmanifest, you have absolutely no way of knowing that this network exists. Unless you start watching your life closely, so that you have proof that what you have felt as just the naked eye, that is transmitted to this. And then there is a reverse transmission from the Paramatma here, and a miracle happens in your life. as you conceived it in the sattvic state of being, not in the turbulent state of becoming. Because if you conceive of something, a desire, an aspiration, a goal in the turbulent state of becoming, that is not going to get across. That's just a lot of noise and cacophony. But if you're very quiet, if you're very silent, then even though you're not praying, then it just leaks across. It leaks across. And then it leaks across to what? Because there is no tangible object for you to catch. So you got to study the scriptures. You got to very closely observe your life to see what events are happening, what's happening in your life. And then you can come to the inference, a very intelligent inference, that there is a source beyond everything that is known by man, beyond everything. A source cannot be touched by thought, cannot be touched by the word. But what is felt here in the I amness, that alone leaks through. And then, because the Paramatma is silent, he will reply by creating an incident. And that is why he is God. Because he will reply, his language is different, his language is grace. So you got to understand his language. You need not even pray. You got to be silent. Prayer is a more crude and a gross form of getting across something to the Paramatma. You got to be a beggar in the self. You got to be a beggar. Not greedy, asking and begging for a lot of things. Just be a beggar without anything. And then there is a flutter of an aspiration, and then the Paramatma is going to send his rocket, and something wonderful is going to happen. And now don't get interested in all this thinking that if we come on this path, then the Paramatma is going to do wonders for you, because the Paramatma always may not respond. Take note. The Master Jesus, he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, so his time was running out. Now he's doing his prayer. And he says, Father, take away this cup of suffering from me. That was his prayer. And the Father in heaven was silent. He did not respond. So it is not that the Paramatma will always be at your beck and call. It is not that always but the Paramatma will be at your beck and call. But there is a good chance for you that your prayer or just your feeling, what you most deeply felt, may get into the ears of the Father in heaven. And then his heart will melt, because he is the all-merciful, very tender-hearted, all-merciful. And then something is going to be sent from there to here, and an event will happen. A transmission will take place. And all unfathomable, impossible to understand. So it is going into that single word, miracle, which is a very gross word. Because you live in a sensory world, you are so enamored and tickled by miracles. So you are all the time asking for miracles. But you never ponder and ask, how did this miracle happen? What is the source? Follow this closely. Okay, this is a great thing which is going on in India every year. And I said Ganesha is the sense of the uncontaminated, just pure sense of I amness. And for complete self-realization, even the sense of I amness must go. It must go for the complete connection to happen. And so the Hindus, what they do is, they have a Ganapati Visarjana. Visarjana means releasing back. So you worship Ganesha for a certain number of days during the Ganesh Puja every year, and then you come and dissolve him into the ocean. So that means what? There is something beyond that Ganesha, because he is the eldest son of Shiva. So what is beyond is Shiva. Shiva Mahadeva is beyond that Ganesha. So the Hindus do this. But many Hindus may not be understanding what is the meaning of this. Their fathers and mothers tell them, you got to do this. So every year, in a very religious fervor, you do it. But the real inner significance is, this is self-realization. Because even the self of I amness, that has to completely go in the end. That has to go. That's the final thing. And now you see this Ganesha and the Shakti which is becoming the same thing which I showed. Religious art in India. The whole of art in India is completely religious. It's inspired by religion. And here you see Shakti has come back home. So the cosmic dance of Shiva and Shakti. And then the whole object is to bring Shiva into relief so that the sense of being becomes very strong and consolidated. And you feel so well within yourself. You feel so good. And you actually care damn for the world. But you dare not say this to anybody. Because the whole thing of the world being more important than you, that's gone completely. It's gone. And then think of all the insights which a creative men and creative women have. The people who are winning the Nobel Prizes and the great inventors and the great discoverers. Then the source of an insight, I said intelligence. So Shiva is the source of that intelligence. It is para, supreme, transcendental. That's the source. The home of prajna, intelligence. From there it begins, the journey begins. Then it comes to pashyanti. So pashyanti means to see. So what is see? Then you see the insight in the consciousness. You see it. So Newton saw the apple falling, and immediately a flash occurred to him that, oh my God, the earth is attracting this apple. This is the law of gravitation. So an insight. So, but where did the insight come from? It's coming from way beyond this world. It's coming from the Supreme. Para, beyond, Supreme. Then you see it in the consciousness, and then it passes through an intermediate stage where you search for words and you search for pictures to articulate it. Then it's in the throat. Vaikari is here. It's in the throat. Then you speak the truth. Eureka, like Archimedes shouted from the bathtub. He made a discovery of the Archimedes principle, and then he shouted because he got that insight. And so, but every one of these insights is rooted in Shiva, the unmanifest. It's coming all the way from the unmanifest down to earth reality, finally into the throat. And then you speak that truth. So I've dealt with this, that the higher self must watch the lower self. And we have gone through this. We have gone through this. And we have gone through this. Now this is the last sutra for the day. You can feel very happy. I'm not going to torture you anymore. Just the last sutra. And this is, I'm coming again and again to that central truth that the moment the consciousness becomes silent, you are connected. That's the central truth. Jitatmanaha prashantasya paramatma samahitaha sitoshna sukadukkeshu tatha manapamanayoho. So when somebody is in heat and cold, in pleasure and pain, in honor and dishonor, if he is able to be very, very tranquil, without a thought moving, a thought wagging its tail, and when the lower self has completely come back home to Shiva, then he is infinitely close to the Paramatma. This is what the scripture is telling. So you got to read the scripture to know that when you are very, very silent, you are connected beautifully to the divine. You've got to read the scripture, otherwise you won't know. Otherwise, you can remain all through your life as an atheist also. But things will be happening for you, and you'll be speaking some atheistic things, but you'll be a very good man, and you'll have integrity in your life. But you've not actually understood things deeply enough. Following this? So, Jitatmanaha prashantasya. So, anybody who has mastered the lower self and who has attained tranquility, mastered the lower self, attained tranquility, he is infinitely close to the Paramatma, Paramatma Samahitaha, then tranquil under what conditions? Tranquil in heat and cold, in pleasure and pain, in honor and dishonor. If you have reached an unperturbed state of tranquility and the lower self activity has subsided, then that person is connected to the Paramatma. And this is a thing which you got to discover. The thing has to happen to you, a lot of miracles have to happen to you, then you must ponder over the miracles, then you must study the scriptures, then you must understand how the miracles happened. You got to think, do the whole thing yourself. Only then it's authentic, otherwise it's second-hand, it's bereft of originality, it's bereft of truth. You're just repeating like a parrot somebody else's words. Okay, this is two people, and two people are always looking at each other, thinking that they are the bodies or they are the personalities, but in truth, they are actually manifestations of the divine. The I is here, the I is here, the I. And the I is the common denominator, and the I is the common ground in the cockroach, in the pebble, in the blade of grass, and in the galaxies and in us. And that has to become real for us. And then we got the self-realization. Once it becomes real, once there is no shred of doubt and conviction has consolidated itself, then that is realization. Okay, now we come to the end. And